Hi everyone, so I am here to share a walkthrough of the Lord of the Rings Tarot. This I purchased from Etsy. The Etsy seller's name, it's FickesArt. I will definitely share a link in the description box below on how to purchase this deck. I was so excited when I found out about this deck. Obviously, huge Tolkien fan, have read the books. Obviously, the movies are amazing, and just love everything about The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And so I was so excited to see this deck because I know there's I think it's a mass market version that's coming out. I'm holding out very little hope. Sorry to be a pessimist, but I am holding out very little hope for that deck. Maybe it will be as a Game of Thrones deck. Like maybe it'll be along the lines of that deck. One can only hope, because that deck is fabulous and was so well done. But I'm not holding out hope, so I was really excited to learn about this deck because it really, to me, like embodies just the feeling and I don't know, just the energy of that Tolkien world. I love it. And so I definitely wanted to do a walkthrough and share it with everyone today, just because it's wonderful. So these are the backs. They're really beautiful. There's Elvish writing, around the border here, which is lovely. And this here is, I suppose, to represent the white tree of Gondor. Here you have so this is from Make Playing Cards, I believe. And so it doesn't really come with, it came with like this, just like a regular, like it's a windowed tuck box. So I'm gonna definitely look into getting a bag for this. But yeah, so it came with the deck and like this book, and then there is a little like a fold out pamphlet that has each of the card names and kind of just like who's featured in the card, like which character scene, might be, seen in the card. So yeah, so it's really beautiful. Like I said, I'm so excited to have this. I'm so excited to work with it. And again, definitely wanted to just share it just because I know there's tons of Tolkien fans, tons of Lord of the Rings fans out there. So yeah, let's just walk through the deck. So this is the Fool. So this is Peregrine Took, so Pippin, and this is when he takes the Palantir and starts gazing into it. So I just love this representation as the Fool, kind of that innocence and naivety, like maybe not really understanding the dangers that this poses, and like the dangers and what sets of events we can set off by gazing into this Palantir. But so I feel like it's perfectly representative of the energy of the Fool, sort of that curious and looking for adventure, but maybe not really understanding the dangers that lie ahead. So I just love this representation of the Fool. And here we have the Magician, of course, is Saruman the White. So, we know he's a very powerful wizard. He's been around a very long time. And we know he has a lot of tools at his disposal, and he knows how to use them very well. But as we all know, we don't always use those tools for good. So I feel like this is a great representation of the Magician, having the tools, mastering your magical arts, manifesting, but with that, sort of caveat of make sure we have the best intentions, when we're manifesting and making magic. So that's the Magician. And here we have the High Priestess, of course, is Galadriel, that beautiful elf. And I just love this. It's gorgeous with the moon above her, and you see like the two trees flanking her in her white gown. She's just so beautiful, and obviously the perfect representation of the High Priestess. I love this because, Galadriel's very mysterious. She sort of speaks in riddles sometimes. It's sort of like you got to figure out what she's trying to tell you, the knowledge that she's trying to impart to you. So I feel like that's a perfect representation for this, because we know the High Priestess is sort of that card of intuition and mystery and that keeper of knowledge and arcane wisdom, and she certainly represents that. And like I said, she certainly makes you work for it. You don't always just get, to see all the knowledge. She's sort of that keeper of the veil. So perfect. And here we have the Empress, and the Empress is Arwen Evenstar. She's just so beautiful. I love this, this coming from the scene, one of the final scenes in the movie, where she's presenting herself to Aragorn. Her head is down, she's kind of like looking down, like not sure about, what's going to happen. But, so definitely a wonderful, representation of that feminine, divine feminine, that feminine energy. She's such a strong, has such a wonderful like will and just confidence in herself, and she knows what she wants, and she just represents that great feminine energy. And then of course we have the Emperor, is Aragorn. And so if we look at them just side by side, it's just so beautiful. If we look at them together, this was one of the many reasons I was so excited to get this deck. But if we just look at how beautiful that looks just next to each other, sorry, there's a little glare, but just look at how beautiful they look. So we have the Empress and the Emperor, perfect. And then here we have the Hierophant. So the Hierophant is of course Gandalf the Grey, sort of the traditions, like sort of that, the collective good. I always see the Hierophant as sort of the card of like community, and that and sort of like the good of the community and the good of the whole over the individual, each individual. And certainly Gandalf represents sort of that wanting to save Middle Earth, and just kind of being that savior and that that guardian of Middle Earth, trying to protect everyone, to ensure that everyone is safe and and can live their lives and be free of like the threat of evil. And I just think it's great that Gandalf is the Hierophant. So here we have the Lovers, probably one of my favorite depiction of the lovers of all time is Gimli and Legolas. And I just love this because we always see the lovers as some sort of like romantic couple, and here you just have a strong friendship, a partnership. They are in the fellowship together. They don't really trust each other. There's centuries and centuries of just all this stuff and drama that would cause them to not trust each other. But here they are as the lovers because they had a common goal, and they had a common task together, and then it developed into this like beautiful, respectful, loving friendship and partnership where they watch out for each other and they fight for each other, and they join forces. And I just absolutely love this depiction of the lovers as Gimli and Legolas. It's just so beautiful and poignant, and I love that it's them. I love that. Here we have the Chariot is Éomer and the Riders of Rohan. So this is the scene where I believe they come upon Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas, who are looking for the hobbits who've been taken, and they sort of kind of ride up and surround them. So the Chariot, even though Éomer faced like basically being cast out of his own community, and here he is riding, and he has that great like force of will, and confidence in himself and direction. He knows what he needs to do, even though he's been cast out. He knows what he needs to continue to lead, his Riders of Rohan, and they have a task, and he represents the Chariot so well. I love this. And you can see it's sort of like the light horse and the dark horse. There's still a lot of like symbolism there, but I love that Éomer's the Chariot. And here we have Strength, and Strength, of course, is Frodo Baggins. If he's not the epitome of just courage and bravery and just, inner strength, I don't know what is. He's just a hobbit from the Shire. He's never left the Shire. He's never really ventured, far from his home. And, And I just love that he just, volunteers, to carry the ring, doesn't really even think, he doesn't really hesitate. He just, it's something that has to be done, and he volunteers to do it. And I just feel like that's such a, it's just a beautiful display of, of that strength and the courage. And, yeah, so I love Frodo as strength. And here we have the Hermit. And the Hermit is represented by as like Fangorn Forest, but we also know that the Ents. So we have Treebeard, who's the Ent, and this is a great depiction. He's sort of retreated from fighting the battles of the world of men, and he's just in the forest, and he's a guardian of the forest, and he just has basically turned to the forest where he belongs, and is looking towards that inward journey, and not really worrying about these trials of men and elves and orcs, and this battle that's going on around him. It's basically just him in the forest. So great depiction for the Hermit card. And here the Wheel of Fortune is, of course, the One Ring, and basically the center of this entire story. And the Wheel of Fortune is such a card of ups and downs, and really it matters who's wielding this ring. Frodo is so pure and innocent, but even he can be corrupted. And then we have someone like Smeagol, who completely turns him and transforms him into this creature Gollum, and just because of it was him that was wielding it, and Bilbo had it for so long, and it really depends on who's got this ring, and such as the Wheel of Fortune is that you can be on top of the wheel and everything can be fine. The ring existed for so long in the Shire with Bilbo, and and no evil forces had their hands on it, but that wheel always turns, and now there's the threat of Sauron getting his ring, getting the One Ring back. So excellent depiction of the Wheel of Fortune. Here we have Justice, and Justice, of course, is Theoden, the king of Rohan. And yeah, I feel like he's just that. He's like that voice of reason and like weighing all options. He has to make a decision on whether to help Gondor. They have a history together. It's it's sort of a contentious relationship, and he sort of has to weigh those decisions when he decides to bring his people to Helm's Deep. He has to weigh and use his mind. It's sort of like that mind and heart, making those decisions and kind of weighing, what's going to be best for his people and what's going to be best for all of Middle Earth. So I love this depiction, great choice for the Justice card. And here we have the Hanged Man, and this is Faramir. And if we remember, Faramir's own father tries to burn him alive. He believes he is dead, and that he's perished and both his sons are gone, and Gondor is sure to fall. So we've kind of given us up hope, and so we see sort of Faramir like suspended here, with that fire sort of encroaching on him, and it's really a turning point for him, I think, because he's faced such struggles with his father. He wants his father's approval, his respect, his love. He feels like his father loved his brother Boromir, So this is definitely like that pause, when he makes it out of this, I feel like he's sort of like a different man, and, definitely has a different perspective. So it's sort of that change of perspective is what we see in the Hangman. And here we have the Death card. And so Death, of course, represented by Boromir, and obviously that's Aragorn with him and the rest of the Fellowship looking on. And I just think this is another huge turning point in this story, where they lose the first member of the Fellowship. This is the first member of the Fellowship to fall, and it's really a turning point for them, and it's sort of like an understanding that of the perils that they face, and how they have to be prepared, and how they have to trust each other, and how they may need to part ways in order to better meet their goal. So this is great for sort of that death and rebirth. I feel like the Fellowship sort of crumbles and is sort of reborn, and they kind of have to go off in their own directions in order to complete their task and keep each other safe. And so, yeah. Here we have Temperance, and Temperance is Samwise Gamgee, and Sam is just that loyal and loving and caring and just, you know, that friend to Frodo, that companion to Frodo. You know, he's no more, you know, worldly than Frodo and has never left the Shire, and, you know, but he's so willing to be that voice of reason for Frodo and that help and, you know, bring that balance. You know, there's if how many times do we see in like the books and in the movies, like he's like that comic relief, like, you know, when he's talking about food, you know, and Frodo's like got this huge burden on his shoulders and there's just all this danger, and Sam's like that comic relief, that like return to normalcy, that reminder of the Shire. It's that balance that we see in Temperance. It's that, you know, we need to be tempered sometimes. We need to be reminded of the positives and the good things, and I think this is great. This is perfect for Temperance. Here we have the Devil. And of course, the Devil is the Witch King of Angmar, and of course his Nazgul behind him. And there's not much more we can say. This is like pure evil. You know, this is the evil. This is, you know, it's not even the ultimate evil because Sauron is the ultimate evil. This is like the, you know, this is basically his hand, you know, kind of dealing out, you know, the evil in the outer world. And that's it. That's the Devil, the Witch King of Angmar. Not much else we can say about that. And the Tower, of course, is Barad-dûr, his Sauron's fortress, you know, with his great eye, like looking at everything. You know, and this is, you know, that the Tower, you know, this is what we're trying to destroy so that we can bring about a new world for Middle-earth. So this is the major, you know, rendering, you know, we need to render this completely destroyed so that Middle-earth can be safe and that they can move on and just live, you know, happy lives without this evil, you know, constantly lurking. And here we have the Star. And so the Star is Legolas. And so, yeah, this is when he's, you know, he's aiming, you know, to shoot, you know, one of the Nazgul that are, you know, riding, the ring wraiths, you know, that are riding their winged, they're like winged creatures. And so this is, you know, him, you know, taking aim, and, you know, it's again, that representation of hope, you know, that there is hope, that, you know, the Fellowship is, you know, is there and has a common, you know, goal. And even though they come from all different, you know, reaches of Middle Earth and all different walks of life and different species, they've come together, and that there's always hope, you know, there's always hope for, you know, for what is to come, and you know, that they can overcome this evil. Here's the Moon. I love the Moon card. This is Éowyn. You know, she's just so strong and fierce, but she has like this deep ability to love, and, you know, she cares so much about the people of Rohan, and I just kind of love this. But she's sort of an enigma, you know, she just seems so like fragile, and so, but I love when she says, "I am no man," and then, you know, she stabs like the Witch King in the face. I mean, she's just amazing. And I love when Aragorn reminds her, like, she's a shield maiden of Rohan. Like, her fate is not going to be just to sit idly by. Like, she's going to play a part. We just maybe don't know what that part is. And, like, I love when she just surprises everybody and, like, you know, and rides into battle, and, you know, they don't even know she's there. You know, but she's definitely, you know, that you know, mysterious figure that help, you know, that's coming, you know, that sort of dark night of the soul before, you know, we get to the sun. You know, she will fight, you know, she will fight until the death if she has to protect everything that she loves. And here's the Sun, and the Sun is Meriadoc Brandybuck, and I just love him because he's so positive. Like, he's just, you know, he's just sort of like a ray of light, you know. The hobbits are, you know, not used to fighting, and not, you know, but he's just sort of like that ever, you know, present, like, you know, friend and companion, and willing to fight for you. But he's just, you know, positive, and it adds that like connection to the Shire. So again, I like the depiction of that for the Sun. And Judgment is, of course, this is the boat sailing to the undying lands with like that sun, you know, setting. And so, yeah, so this is basically like sort of like that reckoning, you know, the sailing to the undying lands, that, you know, coming to terms with everything that's happened and making that choice to move on, you know, to leave it behind. So it's that like that moving on, that very, you know, clear choice. It's an intentional choice to move on and take what you've learned and move forward. So there they are, sailing to the undying lands. And here we have the World, which is of course a map of Middle Earth, you know, kind of representing that whole, you know, again, the world is like that completion, that, you know, fruition, coming to fruition. So here we just have the map of their world, but also just that idea that this is what they're trying to protect, this world, this is the goal. The goal is to keep Middle Earth intact and to keep its people safe and to have harmony and peace and let them live out their lives, you know, without that evil, you know, lurking, like we said. So that's the World card. And here we have the Ace of Cups, and the Ace is the, that's like the vial of Galadriel. That's what she gives Frodo, and, you know, as sort of a parting gift, you know, to help him like find his way in the dark. So I love that because it's sort of given out of pure love and protection. And yes, it's like that guiding light, you know, that, like I said, that given in, you know, as a gift of love for Frodo. And here we have the Two of Cups. This, of course, is the union of Arwen and Aragorn. So just beautiful, you know, obviously depiction of this beautiful love story, you know, that sort of, they come together even against all odds, and, you know, they're technically not supposed to be together, you know, it was never supposed to work, but this is that, you know, coming together, partnership, union, you know, that very loving union. The Two of Cups. And here we have the Three of Cups, and this is like just basically the women of Middle Earth, you know, celebrating. It's a very, Three of Cups is sort of a very celebratory sisterhood, you know, type of card. And so, you know, these might be, it looks like a human and an elf, and so it seems like they're coming together, sort of celebrating their sisterhood of just being, you know, habitants of Middle Earth, even though they come from different, you know, backgrounds and different species. And here we have the Four of Cups, and it's, this is, you know, Bilbo when he's talking about, you know, how he wishes to leave the Shire. You know, he's kind of planning on leaving. You know, he's planning on kind of turning his back on the Shire and going off for one last adventure. He wants to finish his, you know, his book and, you know, his story, and so that this is, you know, him kind of making that decision to leave the Shire. And here we have the Five of Cups. It's the Fellowship. And this is after, you know, Gandalf falls, when he's fighting the Balrog, and you know, they think he's gone forever. This is sort of them grieving that loss. So, you know, in that Five of Cups, they're definitely, you know, grieving the loss of Gandalf, and sort of like, where do they go from here? He was sort of their leader, like their hope, you know, and now they're sort of like at a loss, but they have to keep moving. That's the Five of Cups. Here we have the Six of Cups. And this, of course, is like the hobbits and everyone dancing at Bilbo's birthday party, and they're sort of unaware of like what they have ahead of them, this big quest that they have, you know, coming. This is just basically, you know, like kind of enjoying the moment. This is, you know, without them understanding what lies ahead. This is just them enjoying this moment of this birthday party, you know, sort of a moment of joy. You know, without really the worries, you know, that are to come. And here we have the Seven of Cups, and the Seven of Cups is, this is the mirror of Galadriel. You know, this is where, you know, they're gazing into it, you know, sort of like seeing what an outcome could be, or maybe the possibilities, you know, the possible outcomes, not necessarily what will happen, but what could happen, I guess, you know, based on if they take certain actions. So that's the Seven of Cups. Here we have the Eight of Cups. And then this is, of course, the hobbits, like after Gollum has betrayed them. So he's like leading them, but really he's kind of leading them to ruin. So sort of that, you know, sort of like a betrayal, you know, he's basically has betrayed them, and broken their trust, and you know, they did trust him, and he's kind of led them right to danger. Okay, and here we have the Eight of Cups. This is Barleyman, the keeper of the inn of the prancing pony. So that's him when he's talking, when they're asking him, like, you know, have they seen Gandalf? And oh, he hasn't seen him in 6 months. And so this is when he's talking to the hobbits while they're at the inn of the prancing pony. And here we have the Ten of Cups. And then this is Arwen and Aragorn, you know, with their son, sort of living happily with their son. You know, Arwen sort of sees this vision, and she confronts her father and says, there is a child, like, you saw it, you know there's a child. So this is sort of that, the Ten of Cups, you know, that's sort of like living, you know, family and harmonious living, and like almost like a happily ever after. So this is Arwen and Aragorn depicted like living with their son once they've defeated Sauron. And here's the Page of Cups, and it's this is Faramir when he reports back to his father, and his father's very cruel to him. You know, Faramir just wants that respect and that love from his father that he just feels like he never had. So you know, it's a very emotional card. It's, you know, that wanting that emotion, wanting to feel those emotions, wanting that emotion returned to him by his father, and his father is so cruel. And here we have the Knight of Cups, and this is Arwen when she's offering her pendant to Aragorn. You know, she gives this to him as a gift, as a sign of her love, her devotion, as an amulet for protection. You know, it's got that like shining light jewel, you know, in it, and so this is her, you know, kind of offering that, you know, that love, protection, care, you know, the things that Faramir is seeking in the Page of Cups. Here's the Knight of Cups, Arwen giving this freely to Aragorn. And then we have the Queen of Cups. This is Celebrian. So this is one of the elves, and another like elf lord. And again, perfect, powerful, loving, you know, compassionate, a great depiction for the Queen of Cups. And then, of course, we have the King of Cups is Lord Elrond. Again, just, you know, sort of, he's strong, you know, he's fair. He thinks about, you know, he weighs, you know, his emotions and his heart and his mind and what's, you know, logic and what makes sense for his people, and how is he going to protect his people, you know, but also how is he going to protect Middle Earth? Like, how does he balance that, you know, just being that, you know, that steady force of love and compassion and caring, but, you know, being able to protect his people and get them to safety, but also not leave Middle Earth, you know, to fend for themselves. Here we have the Ace of Coins. And it's basically just a nut, like from one of the trees that's in Middle Earth. So, you know, obviously that earth energy, you know, representative, that grounding, you know, earth energy. So it's an acorn from one of the trees. And here we have the Two of Pentacles, or the Two of Coins. And this is Gandalf the White, you know, and he's sort of balancing, you know, trying to balance his tasks. You know, he comes back. You know, the whole battle, you know, is taking a turn, and here he has to balance, you know, what he needs to do now. He's come back as Gandalf the White, and he has to kind of weigh, you know, and balance out the things that he needs to do in order to protect Middle Earth and you know, just complete this task of, you know, destroying the ring, protecting Frodo. Here we have the Three of Pentacles. And this is basically a depiction of the dwarves, you know, those miners, and they're basically like mining mithril. We know that material, that mithril, that's so priceless, you know, that creates that armor that Bilbo wears when he gives it to Frodo. So this is them doing their work, set about their task, you know, getting that task done to create this, mine this mithril so they can create these magical protective garments. And here we have the Four of Pentacles, and this is, of course, Gollum being consumed. So this is sort of that card of greed, and we see that with Gollum. He's very greedy. He's beholden to that ring. That ring has just taken hold of him, and he has this greed and this need for it. Here's the Five of Pentacles. And this is Theoden, but this is one when he's being controlled and manipulated by Wormtongue. So, yeah, so this is sort of him like acting like being used as a puppet, not doing the work of his people, but, him, being the puppet of someone who has very ill intentions, for his kingdom. Here we have the Six of Pentacles, and this is Galadriel when she presents, the gifts to the Fellowship. When she gives, she gives Frodo the Light of Elendil, to take. So this is her, her generous nature, her generosity of gifting them, things that will help them along their quest. Here we have the Seven of Pentacles, and this is, of course, Sam tending his garden. He's a gardener, and he's tending his garden in Hobbiton. It's just a, this is Sam, what Sam would rather be doing. This is Sam's life, simple, but he has his tasks. He has, these simple, the simple work that he does, but it's something he loves and brings him so much joy, and he sets about this. He doesn't want to be off on adventures. He'd rather be back in the Shire, being a gardener. And here we have the Eight of Pentacles, or the Eight of Coins. And this is basically the like blacksmiths or these jewel crafters crafting the rings of power. So this is sort of like the beginning of this, creating all of these, forging these rings of power, is sort of like the beginning, of this entire, saga of the ring, and when the rings came to be, and how this task of creating these rings is going to have, and just echo through, centuries and centuries of time in Middle Earth, and just have so many repercussions. And here we have the Eight of Pentacles, Eight of Coins. Obviously this is Sam, coming home to his children and his wife Rosie. And, so this is just sort of that, the culmination, that quest completed, job well done, a job, that needed to be done and it got done. And it's just the quest fulfilled, for Sam. And again, returns to his beloved Shire. And here we have the Ten of Pentacles. And so this is depicting Sauron, is like basically the destruction of Sauron, like all the people that came together, this is like depicting that tower falling. You can see the tower in the distance. It's like way off in the distance, the tower collapsing, the eye falling. This is the destruction of Sauron. And this is depicted in the Ten of Pentacles. Again, culmination, of collective effort, working together for this common goal and getting the job done. And here we have the Page of Pentacles, and it's Smeagol and Deagle, and they're out fishing. They're fishing to try to catch fish to sell, and this is obviously before Smeagol has any, right before he has his first interaction with the ring. And so he's really just a regular member of a community, just out doing his work. He's naive, he's innocent, he knows nothing of this danger, that's lurking in this ring that's going to impact him in such profound ways. He's just basically, going about his work. He's innocent. And here we have the Knight of Coins. This is, of course, Farmer Maggot, tending to his crops. The hobbits tend to run through his fields and steal from him and kind of create havoc. And this is him, diligently tending to his crops and protecting his land, from these rascals who come through trying to steal his crops. Here we have the Queen of Pentacles. And this is, just basically a depiction of one of the characters from this is actually from The Hobbit, I believe. One of the female characters from The Hobbit. And she's depicted as the Queen of Coins, holding obviously her coin in her hand, and she's like grounded to the earth, but there's that flowing water, that feminine energy there still. And here we have the King, and this is, again, another character from The Hobbit, Tom Bombadil, with his little hat and his little feather. And he's basically the other side. He's standing on the other side of the river from the queen. So you have the king and the queen, one's on one side, one's on the other, sort of that balance, the feminine and masculine, grounding, but, you know, still flowing energy of the king and the queen of pentacles. And here we have the Ace of Wands, or the Ace of Staves in this deck. So, of course, this is Gandalf's staff, you know, very powerful weapon of Gandalf. So that's the staff of Gandalf. And here we have the Two of Wands, or the Two of Staves. And this is basically Gandalf's staff and Saruman's staff sort of crossed in conflict, like that, you know, them crossing each other, that battle, that conflict between these two powerful wizards. And here we have the Three of Wands, or the Three of Staves. And this is Gandalf, kind of, remember, he's put on top of the very top of Saruman's tower. He's kind of left there, and he's sort of sitting there, and he sees one of his familiars, you know, one of his little insect, you know, familiars and guides come, and he realizes that there's hope, and that so basically he's awaiting, he's sort of contemplating and awaiting his rescue. Here we have the Four of Wands, and of course this is the Fellowship. This is when they're formed, the Fellowship of the Ring, you know, when they come together and they all offer, you know, Frodo's support. It's like this wonderful, you know, climactic moment of that fellowship being formed. And here we have the Five of Wands. And this is, of course, when Isildur just denies, like, throwing the ring into the fire, like Elrond's shouting at him, destroy it. And, you know, he chooses power and greed and, you know, the self over, you know, the good of everyone else, and just makes that choice, you know, and it eventually leads to his ruin, of course, but he makes that choice of greed and power for himself. And here we have the Six of Wands. So of course this is the scene when Aragorn's celebrating his, you know, being crowned king. You know, so he's the king, basically the king of Middle Earth, and this is when he's being, you know, his coronation, basically the celebration and crowning him as king. And here we have the Seven of Wands. I love this card. So this is basically when they honor the hobbits, and they all, like, kind of like, when Aragorn says, you bow to no one, you know, because they all owe these four brave, you know, hobbits so much. And, you know, they're sort of, you know, honoring them, and, you know, sort of like the hobbits are just, like, kind of looking sheepish and, like, don't know what to feel. But it's basically, you know, them being honored for what they have done and what they have sacrificed and the part that they played in saving Middle Earth. And here we have the Eight of Staves, or the Eight of Wands, and these are just represented by the spears of the Riders of Rohan. So we always see, like, it's very action, you know, action oriented card, and we can kind of see these are pointing downward at something, direction, you know, very, very action oriented, very directive energy coming from that card. And then we have the Nine of Wands, the Eight of Wands, and the eight is it's the Nine of Wands, and it's the you know, the army, when Aragorn's sort of preparing them for, like, that final battle. He's sort of, like, talking to them about how they have to give Frodo this time, you know, even if they can't win, they're giving Frodo and Sam the time they need, you know, to complete their task and destroy the ring. So this is the scene where he's, you know, talking to them about, like, what they can do, and if they have to sacrifice, you know, they will. And here we have the Ten of Wands. And of course, this is that scene where Sam's carrying Frodo, you know, up when he can't walk anymore. And they're climbing, you know, up so that they can get to the top of Mount Doom to cast the ring into the fire. And Sam just will not give up. You know, he won't rest. He will not rest until this quest is completed. And then we have the Page of Wands. And of course, this is the scene where Éowyn wants to fight, you know, wants to ride into battle with them, and they're all leaving, and she wants to go. She wants to fight. She does, you know, but But, King Theoden, sort of denies her, and tells her, no, she must stay behind. She has to look after the people. She has her own task. And this is, her. She wants to fight. She has that fiery energy. She may be young. She may be naive to the fact that she could die very easily, but she wants to fight. She wants to defend. Doesn't she have that right to defend, her life and the lives of the people she loves? And that's that fiery, page of wands. And here we have the Knight of Wands. And this is, of course, Gimli and Legolas approaching the riders of Rohan. And there's a little bit of hostility there. They're, are they friend? Are they foe? And, it's basically, that scene where he says, I would cut off your head if it stood but, further from the ground. And Legolas says, you will die, before your sword, falls. That's this scene. I love that scene. But yeah, so this is that scene there, sort of that, again, protect, fiery Knight of Wands energy, protecting whatever, doing whatever they have to. And here we have the Queen of Wands. And this is another character, I believe, from The Hobbit. I believe this is depicting like another character from The Hobbit. I'm not as familiar with the Hobbit stories. I did read The Hobbit a long time ago. I did, watch the films. They stray like somewhat from the books, I feel. So, but this is a character. These are two characters from the Hobbit stories. And then here we have the Ace of Swords, and this is, of course, the sword of Aragorn. This is, that sword, the blade reforged, perfect for the Ace of Swords. And then the Two of Swords, we have Arwen sort of like in a meditative pose, kind of trying to contemplate whether she should leave Middle-earth or stay for Aragorn, stay and see it through and wait for him and have hope that, they're going to complete their task and that good is going to win over evil. And then we have the Three of Swords. So this is, of course, the scene where they're in Khazad-dûm and Gimli sort of learns the fate of his ancestor, his family, his dwarf family. So this is that sort of that grief, that despair, that grief, that he feels. And then here we have the Four of Swords, and this is, of course, the army of the dead. This is when Aragorn said, I hold your oaths fulfilled, and sort of releases them, from this sort of this purgatory they've been in. They've sort of been in the suspended, for forever, and he basically releases them so that they can, be laid to rest. Here we have the Five of Swords, and this is, of course, the Dead Marshes, where there were like scenes of all these battles and battles past, and there's all these remnants of battles that have been fought. Here we have the Six of Swords, and that, of course, is Merry and Pippin sort of being carried by Treebeard. They're being sort of carried out, safe passage out of the forest, and like I said, they're atop Treebeard, so they're being assisted by Treebeard to safe passage. This is the Seven of Swords, and the seven is Grimma Wormtongue. He's a liar. He's, tries to use Theoden as a puppet. He's working for Saruman. He's definitely on the side of evil. So this is sort of that like deceitful, the card of deceit, the Seven of Swords. And here we have the Eight of Swords. This is Frodo, at Mount Doom, sort of that grip of the ring on him, sort of that he has that choice to make whether to destroy it, and he's definitely tempted to not destroy the ring. It's sort of got that same type of hold on him that it has on Gollum, and he's sort of, contemplating, whether he should destroy it or he should keep it, so it's definitely that, it's got that supernatural hold on him. And here we have the Eight of Swords, and this is Denethor. So this is obviously the guardian. He's like the guardian of Gondor while there's no king, and he's basically driven to madness. Like he lost his son Boromir. He thinks he's lost his son Faramir. He's sort of just in the grip of madness and despair, and he's ready to just end it all and take his son with him, rather than staying and fighting. Here's the Ten of Swords, and this is, of course, the scene where the ring is destroyed, it sort of melts into, you know, the fires of Mount Doom. And basically, you know, it's sort of like that culmination, like the war is won, but like they've sacrificed so much and there's been great loss, you know, even though this ring is being destroyed, there's still that, you know, understanding that they have sacrificed so much and there's been great loss and pain because of it, but, you know, they have completed their task. And here we have the Page of Swords. And this is the scene where the beacons of Gondor are lit. So this is sort of that, you know, that energy, you know, the energy of like, you know, it's sort of that initiatory energy, you know, the beacons of Gondor are lit. Now we're setting in place, you know, this action, you know, setting in place this action now that has to be taken. And here we have the Knight of Swords. And this is, of course, one of the fighting Uruk-hai of Saruman, these weird goblin men that he's created. And they're sort of like unquestioning. They just do his bidding. So this is like the Knight of Swords, you know, sort of unwavering in their task, and they don't question anything. They just do Saruman's bidding. And here, of course, we have the Queen is the beautiful Galadriel and her companion Celeborn. So here they are, the King and the Queen of Swords. They are companions. And they are depicted here as the King and the Queen of Swords. So that's it. That's the deck, the Lord of the Rings Tarot. It's so beautiful. I like the cardstock. It's like that make plain card. It fans out really nicely. It shuffles, like it's that superior smooth cardstock, so it's really nice. It fans out beautifully. So yeah, it's just a beautiful deck. I'm so glad that I got it, and I'm so happy to have shared it with you. So I hope you like it, and I'll definitely link in the description box below where you can purchase this deck. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Bye.